When Adam's accident happened, you begin to question everything. You think, how many of these are we going to have to go through before there's a change, before we all wake up?
Old men go to death, but death comes to young men. One seems natural, the other inexplicable. Barely 5 weeks after burying Petty patriarch Lee Petty at the age of 86, Racing First family is trying to cope with the loss of 19-year-old Adam.
He was born into a racing dynasty, carrying a name that defined NASCAR greatness for generations. At just 19, Adam Petty was a rising star with a fearless heart and a smile that won over fans everywhere. He had everything ahead of him: talent, family pride, and the dreams of a champion. But in one shocking moment on a clear May afternoon, a simple practice turned into a silent tragedy. The sport lost its youngest hope in a crash that no one could have seen coming.
19-year-old Adam Petty died Friday from injuries suffered in a single-car crash at the New Hampshire International Speedway. The fourth-generation driver was rushed to Concord Hospital, where a spokesperson says he died of head trauma.
His death shook NASCAR to its core and forced a painful look at how safety had been left behind. This is the heartbreaking story of a prodigy lost, and how his final race changed everything. The spark of a racing star. Adam Petty was born into racing royalty. His grandfather, Richard Petty, was called the King, and his father, Kyle Petty, had carried on that proud name. Adam grew up with racing in his blood and dreams in his heart. From a young age, he wanted nothing more than to follow his family onto the track. By the time he was 19, Adam was already showing incredible skill and confidence behind the wheel. Fans loved him for his warm smile, easygoing attitude, and the bubblegum he always seemed to chew before a race. They saw a bright future ahead for him, one that could break records and keep the Petty legacy alive for a new generation. But in May 2000, everything changed in an instant. Adam was preparing for a routine practice run at New Hampshire International Speedway. No one expected that day to be any different. The weather was calm, the track familiar, and Adam was relaxed and ready. Then, suddenly, disaster struck. His car crashed hard into the wall, and the impact took his life before anyone could even react.
At high speeds, disaster holds no bounds. Adam Petty was killed during practice, not a race.
Fans, family, and fellow drivers were shocked and heartbroken. How could someone so young and talented be lost so suddenly? Adam's death would not only change his family forever, but would also push NASCAR to face serious safety questions. This was the tragic beginning of a story that would rewrite racing history. Born into a racing dynasty, Adam Petty was more than just a promising young driver. He was the fourth generation of a legendary racing family. His great-grandfather, Lee Petty, had opened the door to a new world of stock car racing. Then came Richard Petty, the King, who became one of the biggest legends in NASCAR history. Adam's father, Kyle Petty, also carried the family name onto the racetrack. Growing up, Adam was surrounded by racing stories, trophies, and the roar of engines.
Adam Petty will win the Easy Care 100 in Charlotte. Tremendous victory for the 18-year-old youngster. His first super speedway start in the ARCA series. He will score the victory, hand out the window, pumping his fist, the crowd on their feet, cheering him on. Adam Petty, the winner tonight, a spectacular story.
Racing was not just a career for the Pettys. It was a way of life, passed from father to son like a priceless gift. Adam learned to drive early, practicing on dirt tracks and in go-karts. It didn't take long for people to see his natural talent. He was quick, smart, and fearless, never afraid to push the limits. He had the same fire in his eyes that made his grandfather a champion, and the same big heart that made fans love him. People believed he was born for greatness, ready to carry the Petty name into a new century of racing. He had big dreams, and he was eager to make his mark. But no one could have known that the same passion and risk that built this racing dynasty could also break it. As Adam moved up to higher levels of racing, The danger around every turn grew, waiting for just one moment to change everything. That moment was closer than anyone ever feared. Chasing the dream. By the time Adam turned 19, he was already making waves in the racing world. He had moved up through smaller series with impressive speed, proving he had the skills and confidence of a champion. Adam wasn't just driving for himself, he was carrying the weight of his family's name and the hopes of thousands of fans who wanted to see the Petty legacy shine once more.
So now he's a fourth-generation driver. That's a first for NASCAR, and it may well be a first for any major professional sport.
Every time he got into the car, he showed courage and passion beyond his years. Adam signed on to drive in the NASCAR Busch Series, a huge step that showed everyone he was ready for bigger challenges. He trained hard, listened to his crew, and never let fame change him. Fans loved that about Adam. He was still the same friendly, easygoing kid who smiled before every race and chewed his bubble gum as if it were a lucky charm. Even other drivers respected him for how focused and fearless he was, even against older, more experienced racers. But racing is never safe, no matter how talented you are. Adam was learning to handle faster cars, tougher tracks, and tighter competition. It was a dangerous game, and every driver knew how quickly things could go wrong. Still, Adam believed in himself. He trusted the car, trusted the team, and trusted the dream he had followed since he was a little boy. Nobody could have guessed how close he was to tragedy. As he prepared for his next practice, there was no sign that disaster was waiting, ready to change everything in one silent moment. The day everything changed. Adam strapped on his helmet, pulled on his gloves, and climbed into his car. The engine roared to life, just like always. He drove out onto the track, focused and confident. For a few laps, everything seemed fine. Then, in a sudden, terrible moment, something went horribly wrong. Adam's throttle stuck wide open, giving him no chance to slow down. His car shot straight into the wall at full speed. The force of the crash was massive, stopping his heart in an instant. There was no warning, no time to react, and no way to save him. News of the crash spread fast, and shock filled the racing world.
The 19-year-old Petty died of head injuries after he crashed during practice for a race tomorrow at the New Hampshire International Speedway.
How could this happen to a young driver with so much talent and such a bright future? Fans, family, and fellow racers were heartbroken. A silent, deadly mistake had taken away one of the sport's greatest hopes. The questions came quickly. What failed, and why? Adam's death would soon start a wave of changes that would reshape racing forever. But in that moment, all anyone felt was deep, painful loss. Family shattered. When the news of Adam's crash reached his family, their world fell apart. The Pettys had faced danger on the track for decades, but nothing could have prepared them for this. Adam was just 19, full of dreams and hope, and in an instant, he was gone. His father, Kyle Petty, was crushed by the loss of his son. He had taught Adam to race, supported him at every step, and believed he would carry on the family name. Now that dream had turned into a nightmare. Richard Petty, Adam's grandfather, was also left in shock. He had seen so many victories, so many hard battles on the track, but this was a pain he could not fix. The Petty family had always been strong, but this loss was deeper than anything they had ever faced. Friends, fans, and drivers from all over the country sent their prayers and tributes, but nothing could take away the emptiness. In the days after Adam's death, the Pettys tried to hold on to each other and find answers. Why had this happened? Could it have been stopped? These questions haunted them, and they would not rest until they found the truth. Adam's loss was more than personal grief. It felt like a warning that something in the sport was broken. As the family mourned, they also knew they had a mission: to make sure no other family would ever feel this same pain again. Adam's memory deserved nothing less than a fight for change. Shockwaves through NASCAR. Adam Petty's death did more than break his family's heart. It sent shockwaves through the entire NASCAR community. Drivers, team owners, and fans could not believe that a teenager with such talent could be lost during a simple practice run. People started asking tough questions about safety. If someone like Adam, with a good team and good equipment, could die so suddenly, then no one was truly safe. The crash showed a weakness in the sport that many had ignored for too long. NASCAR was growing bigger every year, with faster cars and tougher competition. But safety rules had not kept up with the risks. Drivers trusted their equipment and their skills, but Adam's accident proved that trust was not enough. Fans wanted answers, and drivers needed change. News outlets covered Adam's death everywhere, replaying the crash and sharing memories of his short but bright career. His smile, his kindness, and his fearless racing spirit were remembered by everyone. But behind all the sadness, there was also anger. Anger that a simple mechanical problem had ended such a promising life. People close to NASCAR started to push for real change. They demanded better safety rules, stronger crash protection, and new technology to protect drivers from similar accidents. Adam's tragic death had opened everyone's eyes. It showed that no matter how skilled a racer was, the danger was always there, waiting for a single mistake or failure. Something had to be done, and fast, before the sport claimed another young life. The search for answers. After Adam's death, investigators moved quickly to understand what had gone wrong. They looked closely at his car, the track, and every part of the safety system. What they found was shocking. A stuck throttle had caused Adam's car to go straight into the wall at full speed, giving him no chance to slow down or steer away. It was a simple mechanical failure, but one with deadly results. People wondered how such a small part could cause such a huge tragedy. Experts began testing and studying ways to stop this from ever happening again. Adam's crash was a wake-up call. If a throttle could stick once, it could happen again. There had to be better ways to protect drivers from these kinds of sudden, unstoppable accidents. At the same time, Adam's family was searching for their own answers. They needed to know how this could happen in modern racing, with all its technology and rules. The Pettys felt a duty to speak out and push for change, not just for their own peace, but for the safety of every driver who stepped onto a track. In the racing world, people started talking more seriously about head and neck safety. The way Adam's car had hit the wall showed how vulnerable drivers were to hard impacts. His death made it impossible to ignore the gaps in driver protection any longer. The search for answers was only beginning, but it would soon lead to big changes that would rewrite the future of racing. A call for change. After losing Adam, the Petty family turned their grief into determination. They refused to let his death be forgotten or ignored. They spoke out, asking NASCAR to make changes so no other family would suffer the way they had. Adam's tragedy showed clearly that drivers needed better protection, and the Pettys were ready to fight for it. Fans and other drivers supported them. Many agreed that the sport was growing faster and more dangerous, and safety had to keep up. They wanted stronger rules, better equipment, and smarter technology to protect drivers from deadly impacts. Adam's crash had shown that even the smallest mechanical failure could end a life in seconds. People demanded that NASCAR take action now, not later. Soon, experts and officials began studying new safety devices and ideas. One major focus was protecting a driver's head and neck during hard crashes. Adam's death had proved how dangerous sudden impacts could be and how quickly they could break the strongest racers. The Pettys made sure Adam's story stayed alive. They wanted him to be remembered not just for the way he died, but for the hope he inspired. He was young, talented, and kind, a racer who dreamed of carrying his family's legacy forward. By fighting for new safety rules, his family kept his spirit alive and turned their pain into a mission. Adam's loss would help save others, making sure no one else had to pay the same terrible price for chasing a dream. The hands device revolution. One of the biggest changes that came after Adam Petty's death was the push for a device called the HANS device, short for head and neck support. Before Adam's crash, many drivers did not use this safety tool because it felt uncomfortable and hard to get used to. But Adam's fatal impact showed how a sudden stop could break a driver's neck or cause fatal head injuries in a split second. People finally saw that something had to be done. The hands device was designed to keep a driver's head from whipping forward during a crash. It connected to the helmet and was held down by the seat belts, stopping deadly movement that could break the spine or damage the brain. After losing Adam, NASCAR teams started paying attention. They realized this simple-looking tool could save lives. It took time to convince everyone, but the shock of Adam's death made drivers rethink their choices. They began testing the HANS device and seeing its real benefits. Many agreed it felt awkward at first, but they also knew no one wanted to see another young life lost. NASCAR soon made the HANS device mandatory for all drivers, hoping to stop injuries like the one that killed Adam. This rule was one of the most important steps forward in racing safety. Adam's tragedy had forced a change that would protect countless racers in the future. Though his life ended far too early, his story helped build a safer path for everyone who dared to race. Remembering Adam. Even after safety rules began to change, people could not forget Adam Petty. Fans held on to memories of his bright smile, his calm confidence, and his love for racing. He had touched so many hearts in such a short time. People saw him as more than just a racer. He was a symbol of hope, carrying on a legendary family's dreams. The Petty family worked hard to make sure Adam's name lived on. They started a foundation in his memory to help children in need. Adam had always cared about helping others, and this was a way to keep his kindness alive. The foundation funded children's hospitals and programs, spreading hope the same way Adam had tried to do on the racetrack. Every year, fans and fellow drivers remembered Adam with tributes and stories. They talked about his courage, his laughter, and the way he respected everyone around him. Adam had been young, but he had shown more heart than many people twice his age. His loss still hurt, but his story inspired people to keep moving forward. Racing was dangerous and always would be, but Adam's memory reminded drivers to never take safety for granted. Through the heartbreak, something good had grown. A stronger racing community, determined to protect its heroes. Adam Petty's dream ended far too soon, but he left a mark no one could erase. His spirit stayed alive every time a young racer strapped in, ready to chase the same dream Adam once followed with so much hope. Carrying on the family name. After Adam's tragic death, the Petty family faced a hard question. Should they keep racing or walk away? Racing had brought them fame and pride, but it had also taken away someone they loved. It was a painful choice, but in the end, they decided to keep going. Adam had loved racing with all his heart, and stopping now would have felt like giving up on his dream. Kyle Petty, Adam's father, found the strength to race again. Even though it was hard to climb back into a car, he believed he was honoring Adam by doing so. Fans supported him, cheering him on through his grief. Kyle made sure every lap he drove was in memory of his son. The Petty family also worked to improve safety for everyone. They knew Adam would have wanted them to protect other young drivers. They spoke out about better safety equipment, stronger walls, and smarter track rules. Their voice carried weight in the racing world, and people listened. By staying in the sport, the Pettys showed courage and love. They turned heartbreak into action, fighting to make NASCAR safer while still chasing the passion that had defined their family for decades. Even though Adam was gone, his spirit was there, pushing them to keep going. Through every challenge, the Pettys remembered Adam's smile and his fearless heart. That memory gave them the courage to race on, keeping the family legacy alive and stronger than ever. A changed sport. Adam Petty's death was a turning point for NASCAR. Before his accident, safety was important, but after he died, safety became the top priority. Adam's crash showed how quickly tragedy could strike, even for the best young drivers. NASCAR leaders realized they had to make big changes, and fast, to protect everyone who stepped into a race car. New rules were created to improve safety in ways that might have saved Adam. The Hans device became required, making sure drivers' heads and necks were protected in a crash. Tracks began updating their walls, adding safer barriers that could absorb more impact and reduce deadly injuries. Cars were redesigned with stronger cages, better seat belts, and better seats to hold drivers safely during hard hits. Drivers also changed how they thought about their own safety. Before Adam's accident, some drivers felt that safety devices were uncomfortable or unnecessary. But seeing a young star lost so suddenly changed their minds. They started accepting new equipment and new rules without arguing because they didn't want to lose another friend on the track. Fans supported these changes too. They wanted their heroes to chase speed and glory, but to come home safely afterward. Adam's story reminded everyone that a human life was more important than a trophy. Thanks to these lessons, NASCAR grew stronger and more careful, honoring Adam by protecting future generations. Though he was gone, Adam Petty had helped shape a safer, wiser racing world. A lasting memory. Years passed after Adam Petty's death, but people never forgot him. Fans still remembered his warm smile, his humble spirit, and the fearless way he chased his dreams. Every time someone spoke his name, they also felt a deep sadness about the future he never got to finish. But they also felt respect, because Adam's loss had brought life-saving changes that protected other drivers. His family kept his memory alive through the Victory Junction Gang Camp.
This summer, a very special children's camp is making dreams come true for many kids in North Carolina. Heather Burgess races on down to Randleman to visit the Victory Junction Gang Camp,
a place built to help children with serious illnesses. Adam had always wanted to help kids, and the camp was created in his honor. Here, children could laugh, play, and forget about their struggles, surrounded by caring people and a safe environment. This was a beautiful way to carry on Adam's kindness and generosity. Racetracks also honored Adam. Tributes were made before races, and moments of silence were held to remember him. His story was told to new drivers, reminding them of why safety mattered so much. Young racers learned that behind every helmet was a person with a family, dreams, and a heart, just like Adam. Adam's legacy was much more than trophies or fame. It was about hope, courage, and a reminder that every life has value. Even though he raced for only a short time, Adam left a powerful mark on NASCAR and on everyone who loved the sport. His spirit continued to inspire racers to push forward, but to respect the dangers and always protect themselves first. Lessons never forgotten. Adam Petty's death taught NASCAR one of its hardest lessons. It showed that even the brightest young talents could be lost in a moment, and that safety could never be taken for granted. Drivers learned that no matter how skilled or brave they were, they still needed the best protection possible. Adam's story was shared with every new generation of racers. They heard how a small mechanical failure turned into a tragedy, and how important it was to check and double-check every part of the car. They learned why safety devices like the HANS were required, and why tracks needed safer barriers. Adam had paid the price, and no one wanted to repeat that mistake. Fans, too, were reminded of the human side of racing. Behind every helmet was a son, a brother, or a friend. People began to support safety improvements even more, knowing they were protecting heroes like Adam. The Petty family never let the world forget him. They continued to speak about safety, honor his legacy through charity, and remind people that Adam was more than a racer. He was a kind young man with big dreams. Through their voices, Adam's memory stayed strong, and his message was clear. Every life matters. Because of Adam, NASCAR changed for the better. Because of Adam, fewer families had to face the same heartbreak. His story was painful, but it made racing safer, and that was the greatest gift he could leave behind. His lesson will never be forgotten. A legacy that lives on. Today, Adam Petty's name still means hope and courage. Even though he died so young, the changes that followed his accident continue to protect drivers every single race. Thanks to Adam, the sport became safer, and future stars had a better chance to follow their dreams without risking their lives in the same way. The Victory Junction Gang Camp, built in Adam's memory, still brings joy to thousands of children each year. Every laugh and every smile there is part of Adam's legacy. It proves that even in tragedy, something good can grow. The Petty family's work to support safety and help kids has kept Adam's spirit alive in the most beautiful way. New fans and young drivers continue to learn Adam's story. They see his face, hear about his fearless heart, and remember why protecting racers matters so much. NASCAR will never forget the lessons of May 2000, because those lessons were paid for with Adam's life. In the end, Adam Petty showed that even a short life can leave a deep mark. His courage, kindness, and love for racing inspired people around the world. His story warns about danger, but also celebrates hope and change. Every time a racer puts on a helmet and straps in safely, Adam's legacy is there, reminding them to dream big, but stay protected. Though he is gone, Adam Petty's light still shines, guiding others toward a safer future, and proving that heroes never truly disappear. Adam Petty's story reminds us how dreams can rise and fall in a heartbeat. He carried the hopes of a legendary family and inspired fans with his fearless heart, only to be lost far too soon. But his memory did not fade. It became a force for change that saved countless lives on the track. Every safer car, every stronger barrier, and every careful check before a race carries a piece of Adam's legacy. Through heartbreak, he gave NASCAR a reason to fight for its heroes, so no other family would face the same pain. As long as racers chase their dreams, Adam's spirit will ride with them, reminding the world that courage and safety must stand together. We will never forget the youngest NASCAR prodigy who changed racing forever.